Let me tell you something. It's Romania Black. And after last week and the episode last week, you best be believing there's some Baileys in this coffee. Well, it's not Bailey's. It's a different brand. It's not that. I'm not being sponsored by Bailey's, but God, I wish I was at this point. We're on episode 31 of Revolutionary Girl Utena. We are getting down to the wire. We are on the last, well into the last third of episodes, which, what a fun arc this is. We're still on the coined sex drive arc. The car has not crashed yet, as it were. I'm waiting for that car to crash. I'm waiting for something to happen to that car. I'm like, how are we going to get rid of it? But we have a lot of comments to get through for this episode, let me tell you. So we might as well dive in and just let it happen. So anyway, let's go ahead and start and just dive right in because there's quite a few comments. Last week, I was sick to my stomach, and I said I wasn't going to watch the rest of this season without booze. So here we are. Episode 22, Meredith Flugelhorn, 7352, said the students holding the barren, dead-looking saplings. This is the Mikage episode where it's like the students are beside Mikage holding the dead plants. It looks like Nemuro is standing in front of a grove or a garden. This is the part that got me. Even the biggest tree to his right is in a pot. Nobody around here is going to grow or thrive in a tree like a tree in a forest. They're all cut off. Their roots go nowhere. And that's literally what this series is. These kids are stuck in these high schools, but they're not able to mature and grow into adults. They've been preened like damn freaking roses. They've been plucked like roses, put into this Otari Academy, and they're just cycling until they die and wither away and die. But they never grow or cultivate or expand or anything. And it's a big time loop, and it's a representation of this whole show. And now with this last episode, it's driving me crazy. So thank you. Meredith, for that comment and metaphor that describes this whole series. It is freaking me out. So, El Freya said, it is interesting to consider Chu-Chu being a bigger part in the story, and why not? But I wonder if Akio would ever let himself be kicked across the room by anybody, let alone Saionji, as he does back towards the beginning when he complains that Chu-Chu is always getting in his way of Anthy. That's a really good point. And as of last episode, we have seen Akio and Chu-Chu in the same vicinity. So that has taken my Chu-Chu theory and just plucked it out. Although that comment did too, because it's like, oh yeah, would Akio let Saionji kick him of all people? Probably not. But I don't know why Chu-Chu has the earring like Akio. I don't know why Chu-Chu is the same color of fur as Akio's hair. I feel like there's a connection there. What if Chu-Chu is the prince and he's stuck in the body of Chu-Chu? We don't know. We don't know at all at this point. It's just all theories hold some container of water, whether it floats or not. Alex Cornejo says, Toga saying you have to follow God's heteronormative will, no matter how psychologically fulfilling the alternative is both hilarious and the least straight way to live a straight life. And then they commented about the TikTok, RIP TikTok, making fun of the TLC show where men say they suffer from same-sex attraction rather than just admitting they're gay or bisexual. Yeah, I saw they sent a meme on the Discord comments, and I watched a little bit of that about, I didn't know because I'm not on TikTok and I'm not really on social media very much, so I'm not hip on the trends, but I didn't know about this whole same-sex attraction or SSA affliction. Mainly it's just a bunch of guys who are married that they won't come to terms with the fact that they might be bisexual or gay. And it's like, just be yourself. Like, just live your truth, man. And if that truth means that you're attracted to men as well as women, or that you've been lying to your wife and you're actually attracted to men, just figure that shit out. The world would be a lot better of a place if people could just figure their stuff out and be cool with one another. That'd be great. But that comment, Alex, hilarious. They also say your description of Akio near the end made me think he's like those weeping angels or SCP-173 from Doctor Who. Same. And it's not fun having to keep an eye on them, but it's even worse when you don't. Likewise, it sucks when he's on screen, but sucks even worse when you don't know what he's up to. I don't know, Alex. After episode 30, I kind of don't want him to be on screen anymore. If he could leave Utena alone and go somewhere else, That'd be great. That'd be right as rain. I'd be all about that. But that comment really made me laugh, so thank you. And then Oliver Jajado for episode 27, which was Nanami's egg episode, which people are like, haha, said that here is the short and sweet director commentary for episode 27, Nanami's egg. I wanted to use a song called Blue Light Yokohama in this episode, but I was told it was impossible because of rights issues. I still regret that. As to why I wanted that particular song, I think it's probably because this episode reminds me of the adult dramas I saw on TV as a little kid. In other words, this is a story about childhood dreams, or an I want to be an adult story. Anthy's sad expression in the last scene, becoming an adult, means learning countless sad truths. For some things, it's best not to think too deeply about them. Yeah, oh, that's such a good perspective, because episode 27, I think, is maybe one of my favorite. It's my favorite Nanami episode by far now that I think about it. After I've had time to reflect, it's my favorite Nanami episode so far is episode 27. And it's such a good episode because it is kind of straightforward. The metaphor is pretty straightforward, but it is not only about wanting to grow up and then having to face the inconveniences that come with that, but then realizing once you become an adult, there's lots of sad truths that you have to kind of come to terms with, like losing loved ones, or having to get a job, or meeting with regret, or being rejected. And it growing up can suck at times. And so I really like that message goes with that episode. I don't even know anymore. That's the thing about this episode. I am so torn because I want Utena and Anthy to be happy. If you all got me into this series and made me fall in love with Anthy and Utena, and then they don't get to be together by the end of this, I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to be mad. I've come to love their romance and now you can't take it away. That's not fair. But yeah, so we're on episode 31. I have held off on this episode as long as I possibly can because last episode was so hard. But what can we do, y'all? What can we do? So it's fine. I've got booze in my cup. We're okay. It's fine. But thank you all so much for watching and for your kind words. I really appreciate it, but we're not going to waste any more time. No. We are going to start episode 31 of Revolutionary Girl Utena. Say a prayer. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. At least we have the OP to rely upon. There's still not enough booze in this coffee. I just need to make the whole bottle and just... If Nanami Kiryu becomes the MVP of this series, I will forgive her for all of her cat murdering. Wow! So Nanami has seen the assault. She has. And she knows what's going down. And that is so multi-layered for her because of the feelings that she has. I brought Whiteboard Kun out because I was like, I don't even know what really I'm going to use Whiteboard Kun for necessarily. But I do think that there is reason to involve Whiteboard Kun in this discussion because it's mainly about what Nanami views as siblingship with Toga. So with Toga, she's always seen her brother, quote unquote. Also, you all gaslighting so hardcore. I remember back when Toga was introduced as her brother and I was like, he doesn't seem like her brother. They don't look anything alike. And everyone was like, oh no, they're brothers. Did they have purple eyes? Why would you think that they weren't brothers? You gaslighting sons of bitches. Here I am calling out that they're not siblings from the start, and you all were like, she knows too much. But yeah, it makes sense that he's not the sibling, that he's just adopted into the family, or that they adopted him, or that I didn't know if it was like a Clueless situation where he was like a step sibling in the family, you know, that maybe the dad married before and married a type A person, and they had the type A, which is Toga, and then he remarried and had Nanami. That's what I thought was going to be the case. But no, so Toga is not the brother, not actually related. Which brings up the whole scenario, like, was he planted there? How deep does this go? How long has Akio been planning all of this? Has Toga been in on it from the start? We just don't know. Was it one of those scenarios where Toga, and my question with this is, as far as this goes, is when did he join the family? Because, you know, when you're a little kid, you probably remember, my earliest memories are probably when I was like 3. So, I mean, if he's a couple years older than her, though, like 2, that's not very long. So, but the series does weird things with memory. So, was he a sibling to Nanami when him and Saionji were riding on the bikes and practicing kendo, and when they met Utena for the first time? That timeline is not clear. But we found out that he's not actually her brother. They're not related by blood, which adds a whole nother factor to all of this. But for Toga, the way that she views siblings is someone that's always there for you. It's someone that's always there for you, and that is always going. It's back to the moon episode. It's with the twins, with Kozu and Miki, and talking about her, where she's like, you know, your sibling's always there for you. They're always there for you, and they're always there to protect you, right? And that's how she's always viewed Toga, is like, oh, he's always going to protect me, and it's fine. But now that she's like in this pre-adolescent stage, it's kind of like there is this kind of questioning that she's having about, you know, a romantic partner and how they are different than a sibling, which, for the record, most people I don't think are attracted to their siblings. This ain't Game of Thrones, but when they were doing the blood tests and they were like, oh, well, two B blood people cannot have cannot have an A blood child. All I could think of was in Game of Thrones being like, something Baratheon, brown hair, something Baratheon, brown hair, something Baratheon, blonde. And it was like, Joffrey Baratheon, blonde hair. And it's like, ah! It was like a Game of Thrones moment of like, oh my God, no, he's not the sibling. And when they said that, I was like, but is he not? And then they revealed it, and it was just mind-blowing. So we go back from the very start with the red roses to the grave, to the stones. I think red roses is an interesting choice because we've seen red roses tied to Toga and Akio, not Utena. Utena has been tied to pink roses. So it's curious that we go back to that now that she's thinking about Akio as possibly her prince. So it said years and years ago. Okay, how long is years and years ago? We don't know. Just show teasing us. But a traveling prince showed up with the red inside of the cape, which could be Anthy, could be Akio, riding on a white horse. Is the white horse a metaphor? Is it real? The OP would have us believe that it's a real white horse, but a regal bearing and a kind smile. See, I feel like it's Anthy. I feel like the prince is Anthy, right? I feel like that is the case. And we'll talk about the very end with the shot of her at the end and her hair, because her hair like transforms where it looks kind of like the prince's a little bit. That last shot where it looks like a Rosarch test, it looks like her hair like traveling out, and it looks kind of like Ganishka from Berserk a little bit. But the hair goes from being curly and wavy to like transforming. So I'm like, is Anthy like transforming back and forth between male and female form? Is she the prince? And in that moment, she kind of becomes like the prince. What is happening? They don't tell us, but the prince's hair, her hair at the very last frame, right before the conclusion, or the to be continued, looks like the prince's. Only it's darker. It's not as light as Akio's. So yeah, so the prince having the wrap the princess in a rose-scented embrace, which would make me think of Anthy from being in the rose garden. And then, you know, gives the kiss, saying this ring will lead you to me one day, and we'll meet again. Never lose your strength and nobility, even when you grow up. Who bears up alone in such deep sorrow. I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like this could be Anthy. There's a part of me that feels like it could be Akio. There's a part of me that feels like it could be both of them together, and they both become the prince together. I don't know. And then the roses become white. There's enough not known that it makes me very, I don't want to say one way or the other. I feel like it could be either way, but this episode being called Her Tragedy. I want to say that the elevator scene is probably one of the most powerful scenes that I've seen in this series so far. And the fact that she witnessed that. And then it's like any comedy with Nanami in it instantly is stripped. And one thing that I really liked about this episode is that the episode intentionally focused the entire time on giving these long, creepy, drawn out pauses with Nanami without words spoken. And at first, in the first moment it happened, you're like, why did it do that? But it kept building throughout the episode so that when you get to the elevator and it's silence, it just like maximizes the effect and the power that it has in that moment, right? So anyway, we're back at her residence with her, and there's the kids. This series is so creepy and it's so trippy. And I'm like, they're all ghosts and this is all just a ghost house. And it's all creepy and nonsense because the pictures of the kids moving, like the shadow girls, there are literally shadow girls in the picture moving. Why? What? Stop it. I don't like it. And her being like, oh, we're joined by blood. Meaning that, you know, I feel like Toga is such a playboy. And he's like, why is he in the middle of Anthy's salad? Why is he in the middle of Anthy's garden making out with these girls? Can't you go outside of it? Quit tramps on into her rose garden to make out with these girls. Anthy don't want none of that. But the thing that gets me is that Toga is a womanizer. Allegedly. I mean, he is, but it's like, are you really into women? We shall see. But he's a womanizer. But there's a part of Nanami that feels that with her and Toga, there's a bond there that goes beyond it. She's like, well, at the end of the day, no matter who all these trollops and who all these hoes are, once they're gone, we're still brother and sister. And he may have a girlfriend every week, but he's going to love me regardless. And we're always going to be together. Like, we'll always be siblings. We'll always be blood. No matter what these girls do, he'll always come back at the end of the day and have me. And she'd relied upon that. But now that's all stripped away. Because she's like, that's all gone now. And Toga is so confusing in this episode with what he does. Like, his womanizing antics don't confuse me. He's been like this from the start, right? And she says, my mother is type B and so is father and so is I. So am I. The whole family is. And she's like, but we all get along. And the moment he shuts the book there and leaves is like, at that moment, he doesn't want to be there for that discussion because he knows, he understands that he's not part of the family. And he's not meant to be there. He knows he's not part of the family. And he doesn't want to get caught in that moment. And he's like, I'm going to take a shower. And then he says, do you care to join me? You're not Akio, Toga. And that's not a bad thing that you're not Akio. But don't do that. Like, that is just the part where he invites her. Where he invites Nanami. In these instances. The thing that confused me about it was back around the time when Nanami was trying to like be all up on Toga, she kept saying, well, but when we were kids, we used to give each other kisses and bathe and stuff. And he was like, no, he's like, I've outgrown that, Nanami. We're not doing that anymore. And you know that. And he was trying to push her away. And here, it definitely feels like he's doing the same thing, but with a different method. Instead of telling her like, no, we don't do that because we're siblings and pushing her away. Here, because it almost seems like he's afraid she's catching on that they're not siblings. He's like, well, do you want to? Do you want to go that route? But if I was Nanami, I'd be like, absolutely not. Because it's one of those things like you play around with all these women. Once you do it with me, like that's not, I don't want to be one of those girls. I want to be your sister. And the weird thing is he does this whole thing where he invites her in the shower, but then later on, he tries to say, well, we're sisters. We're sister and brother, so come home with me. Like, we're siblings. And that's when she reveals everything. So it's a moment where it's like Toga tries to have his cake and eat it too, being like, he tries to push her away using the whole, well, are you my, if, we could have a shower together. Oh, but wait, we're siblings, so stop. But then he tries to like use it to get her to come back later. It's just... no wonder she would be confused. And the thing about it is, now Nanami liking him this whole time and being attracted to him and it being beyond just them being siblings, but her actually being attracted to him is, it's so sad. She said, we used to share everything. That whole silence, though, that long period of silence where he asked her to get a shower and then she's like, Mm-mm. That was so cruel. So yeah, all of the images here where she's like a little kid, she looks like she's 4 or 5, and there's him, and they're like together and all of that. It feels like he just started at the academy as a young kid, and it feels as if it's around the same time that Saionji and him met Utena, right? So yeah, and it's all of them. There must have been a period where his hair just exponentially grew and they didn't take pictures, because it goes from being like shortcut to like 3 feet long. Hair grows not that fast. I also like the idea of the wind bustling through and just making a statement and blowing all the pictures. And she's like, we used to be together and sharing everything, but now my brother doesn't care about me at all. And I'm like, it's because he's at that age where he realizes that maybe, is he attracted to Nanami? I don't know. But he's like, we're old enough that we're not siblings like that anymore. And then showing all of them, our brothers and sisters doomed to drift apart like this. Well, no, not normally, but also you're not really siblings. So that says something too. And the fact that Toga has known this entire time that they're not siblings is also a thing. Okay, want to make note, this is the bougiest, largest shower I've ever seen in an anime. It's freaking huge. Also with like the Gilded Age arc and everything. And then, for the record, I have never sat in front of while my brother's taking a shower before and sat there and watched him. There were several times this episode I thought we were going into like Cersei Lannister territory, and I was like, ooh, I'm not ready for that. And then you find out they're not siblings by blood, and you're like, still kind of weird. It's like the thing, I have a cousin, and we grew up together, and they're like a doctor now and everything, and people are like, oh, well, you should try to date him. I'm like, no. And they're like, well, you're not related by blood. I'm like, but we showed up at the same family reunion together. That's weird. It's like if you grew up being cousins, even if it's not by blood, even if it's by like marriage and everything, you grew up at the family reunion. That's still kind of weird, there's a boundary there, and you don't cross that boundary. So it's just odd. But yeah, no. So anyway, and the red rose and everything for Toga. Oh my God. Nope. And it's a long, drawn out pause. No, can't do it. And then she leaves. And Toga, I feel like Toga is aware of what's going on and what's happening. He knows what's going down. And it's very concerning, right? So then all the girls are surrounding him and he just treats it like something. And I don't blame Nanami for being jealous, because if you like somebody and you watch him like womanize with people all the time, but there's that saying that Anthy, as Anthy has pointed out to Utena, you can't help who you love. And if Nanami loves Toga despite all his womanizing, what can you do about it? But then there's also a part of Toga that I feel Nanami keeps waiting for him to come back and be the brother again, and he's not doing that. So it's like when they were kids, they were siblings and inseparable, and as Toga's grown up and now gotten, involved with Akio and everything, he's not about to go back to being like brotherly with her, and he's got his eyes set on these bigger ambitions, and Nanami's like, I just want my brother back. And I hate that the fact that she took the cell phone and has been listening to all these girls and seeing just how much of a womanizer he is and how much he doesn't care about any of them is, it's painful, because she's having to like see how much her brother plays around all these women, which is not that much different than Akio, for the record. She's like, are you stupid? And they say type B couples never ever get along. Which is interesting. So the fact that both Nanami's parents are both B types makes us wonder, like, I thought the direction was going was that it was going to come out that Nanami's parents aren't happy together and that they have like a terrible marriage because they're both the same blood type. And then I thought it was going to be revealed that Nanami and Toga have the same blood type. And so thus Nanami would think that they can't be a good couple because they're not compatible. That's where I thought we were going with it. Until they said Toga was type A, and I was like, oh, he's the only one that's a different blood type, huh? That's suspicious. And then the girls in the group gave it away. And I was like, okay. But yeah, she's like, what is your hope to predict with it? I like that the girls instantly back away like, no. So then Toga is still trying to hit on Utena. And he's like, it's rude not to ask a lady to dinner. And Utena's like, no. I'm glad that despite everything, Utena's like, I am not interested in you, Toga. Goodbye. And then, of course, Anthy breaks in saying, oh, is that an Italian saying? Like, Anthy, quit trying to instigate. And Nanami's just like, Nanami thinking that, I think Nanami knows that Utena's not the problem. I think she's just looking to deflect somewhere, and Utena's an easy target. The 3 guys showing up with the bus with the glasses on, though, hilarious. They are, anytime the 3 of them show up as Nanami's like fan club, it is so funny. I love it so much. And then when she said she's like, it's your fault my brother's so cold to me now. I thought she was yelling at the 3 guys with a bust, but then we turn around and there's Utena and Anthy. And Anthy eating the banana, again, reminding me of Chu-Chu. Reminding me of Chu-Chu. But also causing, it's just classic physical comedy. Having the banana peel, which causes Nanami to slip. And then who happens to catch her? Who happens to catch her but the worst impersonator of Tuxedo Mask that I've ever seen? You shouldn't fool around on stairways. You shouldn't fool around at this school, sir. No one wants you here, sir. Leave, sir. And then, of course, as he's sitting there bandaging up her ankle, Utena looks down and sees that he's sitting there putting the bandage on her foot, which probably reminds Utena of what he did with her foot, right? And then we have the scene with the first aid box. And let me tell you, if you have watched The Untamed, you know exactly where my mind went during this scene. You know it very well, because there's a scene in The Untamed that mirrors this, quite frankly. The part that grosses me out is he looks up at her, and she moves her hand over his. And I'm like, girl. And Utena, I can't feel horrible at Utena because she's 14 and is trying to feel out her feelings. And the thing about it is, Utena is becoming more and more convinced that Akio is her prince. Because why wouldn't she think otherwise, right? Based on what we've seen. And what's so frustrating is that even if he is her prince, we know that he's a slime bag. Even if that's the case. And we know he's a womanizer and he's playing her and we want her to be as far away from him as possible. And Anthy's not saying anything. The scary part is when they're on the couch there's Anthy. Anthy is there watching. And then the moment he gets done setting it and she's like, oh, thanks so much. And he's like, oh, no trouble. It was my pleasure. The moment he goes back to get the first aid kit, he's like, oh, here you go. And suddenly Anthy's gone. And Anthy has just left the building. She is no longer there during that part. And Anthy's been doing that a lot lately, where she's just been there and then suddenly not there, which furthers my Anthy is a ghost theory, and I don't like it. But then I'm like, is Anthy a ghost? What is happening? And Nanami is the one watching. I'm glad that Nanami's seeing all of this, because Nanami sees that Utena likes Akio, or is attracted to Akio. And Akio is playing her real hard. And now she has seen Akio messing around with Anthy. And so I'm like, Nanami, I never thought I would say this about your character, but I need you to become Wakaba 2.0, and I need you to be an MVP. Girl, I know you are drama. Girl, I know you are worse, girl. Girl, I know you murdered a kitten, but I need you to step up, and I need you to help save this series. I can't believe I'm relying on Nanami to save this series, but girl, you know all the things. Nanami has, from the start of the series, been at the right place at the right time. She has been on to all of the sex drive duelists. She's been in the right place. She was there with Mikage. Girl, you have all the intel. You need to be using your brain, girl. Don't rely on Toga. Fix this. I just get him, kill him with fire, get him away. No. I'm with Nanami looking pissed off in that moment. Yes. So then we have the shaved ice. And she has the blue ice. The green is for Utena. Is it green with envy? Possibly. Nanami is the yellow. And then blue and red are Akio and Anthy, which go together to make purple. And of course, Utena is watching. And I feel so bad because I want Utena to look at Anthy the way she's looking at Akio, and I hate it. It bugs me so much. And Nanami is bugged by it too. And she's like, doesn't it make you jealous? Okay, so as they walk by, there are all these different statues at different times. So it's almost like a different statue for each moment, which is kind of fun. Doesn't it make you jealous seeing all these people doing stuff like this? And Utena's like, yeah, they're showy about it. And she's like, I'm talking about the chairman. So I want to see if there is anybody that has talked about the statues in episode 31 of that. If that's been talked about, what the statues represent. Okay, there is somebody. Oh my God, they've done an art reference page. Someone has done an art reference for episode 31. Good. I want to see the art references in 31. Okay, and the sculptures. Okay, let me see here. It says, okay, in episode 3, I'm going to try to, if I see anything that looks like it's outside episode 31, I'm going to avoid like the plague. But it says for episode 3, we see the Kiryu mansion with the square pond. There's Anthy. There's a little mermaid sculpture. Okay, I want to see episode 31. The shadow play is the ugly duckling story. Okay, well, that is, yeah, the ugly duckling story is, but also we're going to talk about the cuckoo over the nest. So we're going to, all that. I just want to know if the deer could be Artemis in a statue. Okay, but it says episode 31, there's a woman statue there, which is similar to episode 7. Interesting. Okay. I'm not going to read too much into this because I don't want spoilers, but the same episode that's with Juri, in episode 7, the same statue that's in between Juri and Utena is the statue with Nanami and Utena. The children at night and the children by day. Okay. There's a statue with both arms that resembles Venus de Milo. Okay, or it could be Aphrodite. Well, that if that connects to, you know, if that connects to Akio being like the goddess, the god of love, sure. So there's sibling repeats in episodes 7 and 31. The pedestal changes and so does the background. The dark trees and the daylight will match closely, but at the same time they're very different. Okay, they are symbolic attributes of gods. Okay, the twins could be Castor and Pollux. Okay, could be, or Apollo and Artemis. Yeah, it could be. We've talked about Castor and Pollux in the series so far, and Apollo and Artemis could be too, which could be tying to Anthy and Akio as well. We'll see. It also says that the sculptures that the 3 guys bring up are the Brutus, sculpted by Michelangelo. Of course, that could be fun. And then episode 31, there's Apollo with the lyre. That's with the Apollo. I'm not going to read the text that it gives on here because that seems spoilery, but they have the pictures and then what they are. Apollo with the lyre and then kidnapping. Okay, the rape of Persephone. Yes, that's the one where Zeus is holding, or Pluto is kidnapping Persephone and taking her to the underworld to be his wife. Yes, that's what I'm going to cancel out of that before I read it and get spoiled. But that's what it was. So the one where it was Hades taking Persephone away. Yes, absolutely. And that is Akio with Anthy. I was waiting to see if they would talk about that, but also crazy that it's the same sculptures that were with Juri and Utena in that one episode. And so she says, brothers and sisters aren't wasted on anyone. And that's the thing. Nanami says that, you know, what's so insane is that in this moment to Utena, Nanami's like, well, Akio is too good of a brother for Anthy. And Utena's like, you can't say that about siblings. They're not wasting anybody. And by the end of this episode, Nanami's like, oh no, actually I thought, you know, Toga hasn't tried to do anything with me, but Anthy, you've had to deal with Akio doing this. That's not cool. That's not good. Most girls would be lovesick if they had a cool brother. Even Anthy. So Nanami is suggesting that Anthy maybe loves her brother, which after seeing that scene before she gets back in the elevator, we don't get to see what Nanami's overall reaction is, but I'm curious to see what she thinks now in comparison to what she told Utena by the statues. And Nanami says, you're in love with the chairman, aren't you? And of course, Utena blushes at that. But I don't know. It could be Hades dragging Persephone. It could be Akio trying to take away Utena. And then you have Anthy trying to rescue her. And the thing about it is, again, Anthy believes that Akio could be her prince. And she's tempted by him. And he's tempting her into falling in love with him. And I want that to be Anthy, but Anthy's not making a move for the reasons we talked about last week. So, it's so annoying. And then Nanami, of course, giggles and says, no, it's fine. She says, so that's how it is. And then she says, well, let's both try our best. And the thing of it is that Nanami's like, sure, you're not admitting that you love the chairman. I'm not going to admit that I like Toga. Let's both do our best to see how that goes in our perspective, goals there. But anyway, that's when they find out about the match thing, saying that there's no way that he's a typical perfectionist A-type. And then these girls are about to ruin her entire career by pointing out that Nanami, what's your father's blood type? And she's like, they're all B's and he's an A. 2 B-type parents can't have an A-type child. And they're like, are you saying we're not blood relatives? And then when she says, even though we don't have the same blood type, I love the animation of her backing up away from the camera. That was really good. It's almost like Nanami and Toga have both suspected they're not related for quite some time. And this episode's when it finally comes out that she's like, oh, wait, we're not related, are we? And she's like, why didn't I notice it sooner? There's only pictures, no pictures of him when he was a baby. Ugh, girl. She's like, my big brother and I aren't really brother and sister. So, of course, it starts raining. And she keeps, for a moment, I was like, man, she's had that phone forever. Is he ever going to ask for the phone back? And he does. He finally is like, hey, I've been looking for that phone. And it gets, my thing is, in this whole series, whenever she's questioning, again, they use the silence of her looking at the ceiling and the fan slowing in the shadow around it. And when she pulls the phone away so he can't see it. And of course, there's Toga walking in with his shirt open and everything with just a robe on, which if they're just siblings, I guess you wouldn't think anything of it. And he's like, I see. Now, I wanted to make note, the way that she's positioned when he first walks into the room is she's doing this with her arm and has her hand like this. And when he leaves, she has her hands between her legs, which again is just a different pose, but it almost feels very sexual. It's almost masturbating in a sense. So considering how sexual this show is, I don't think that that's by coincidence that that's the case, that she's positioned like that. And then when he goes towards her and he says, you don't, but the thing about it is when he goes up to her and it looks like he's going to kiss her, which is why he's been teasing her all this time. And I'm like, when he actually gets close to her, he could do that, he just checks her for a fever. So it's this weird moment where he actually did not try to do anything with her, and she pushes him away. And she's like, I'm not a little kid. And he said, that's when he says, how about a good night kiss? And she's like, and then it pauses. Again, he's like, just kidding. And yeah, that's when she's sitting there, just kind of dazed with her hands in between her lap. So Nanami can't stay in the house anymore because she's too afraid of being next to him, because she likes him and she doesn't want it to go any further. So she's been going to different people's places the whole time. And they're like, why would she run away? And so I'm so glad to see Maki and Juri this episode, because I have missed seeing the student council. Them not being here last episode was so hard, but here they are, thank God. And they show up. And yeah, she's like, ran away. She says it 3 times. And then now, Subuki, Mitsuru, she's like, can I stay at your house? And at first he's like, oh, well, my room's not very big. So, I was getting Love Actually flashbacks where it's like the one guy that goes from Britain to Wisconsin and the three girls that he meets are like, oh, well, because we're so poor, we live in a 1-bedroom apartment and there's 3 of us and, we'll have to be naked and cling together for warmth. Like, it just felt like that moment. I was like, oh no, Mitsuru, where he's like, I just got a tiny room. And I don't think anything would have happened if she'd stayed at Mitsuru's house, but that is where the censors of the show draw the line. And they bring in Akio, of all people. When Akio has to be the person that is like, nobody's sleeping in other people's quarters, I'm like, ugh, no. Ridiculous. So instead, he takes her to his place and basically admits he's trying to start. Akio's been collecting a harem this entire series. Every female character, it's like Toga on steroids. He's been collecting women in his little space mansion for how many episodes now? And he's like, oh, well, it's my job to ensure that every student has a pleasant life on campus. Not their independence anymore, but a pleasant life on campus. She's like, my true dream is to turn the chairman's residence into a harem. And she's like, what? And he's like, oh, I'm just kidding. Everybody says just kidding. Everybody says just kidding. But the just kidding is not a joke in this episode. Whenever Toga's like, oh, how about a goodnight kiss? Oh, just kidding. No, he actually does like Nanami. Maybe he does like her more than a sister. Maybe he does like her physically, and he's using all these other girls to cope with the fact that he can't be with her because he's thought, what if that's it? What if Toga... I still think Toga and Saionji. But what if Toga did like Nanami for real? But because he knew that they were siblings and that couldn't happen, he's been compensating by being with all these other women and using them and being womanizing around them rather than be with her. So when he says, just kidding, he actually would like to give her a goodnight kiss and all of that. But he can't because they're siblings. And so when Akio says, actually, I'm trying to make this into a harem, just kidding. No, he's not just kidding, because the just kidding comes across later in this episode. He's like, consider us family. And that's the thing. For Nanami, what she wants more than anything is for someone to be by her side no matter what, and protecting her, and to be family. And to feel that betrayal of Toga not actually being her brother is a big blow to her. And so she's like, oh, well, Akio's promising to be family. That means this place is safe and secure. Okay. Except by the end of the episode, she finds out it's not safe and secure and that Akio is dangerous. So then we have this very Neon Genesis. Anthy's on a ladder with the thing for lighting as they're filming. Don't walk under that ladder. It's bad luck. And so Utena's like, you get the feeling Akio's trying to make a harem. And Anthy's like, yes. She's like, that's true. He doesn't discriminate when it comes to girls. And Utena says, what? And then she says, is that true? And Anthy says, just kidding. No, she's not kidding. Akio doesn't discriminate. He's into all women. She's like, oh, well, of course. Akio's not like that. He's got Kane to think about after all, right? And he's your big brother too, right? And she's like, did I sound crazy just now? And Anthy says, yes. You do. She's like, you do sound crazy in this moment. Because then we get the Shadow Girls. And honestly, the whole monkey has escaped thing being related to Mikage, I wonder if the monkey has escaped is referring back to Nanami, because Mikage was collecting monkeys, collecting people for his experiment. If we view Nanami as a monkey the same way, then I keep thinking the whole monkey deal is going to go back to Chu-Chu in some way, shape, or form, but we've not gotten that yet. But I feel like Nanami is escaping the illusion. The illusion of Toga being her brother is breaking apart, and that's going to cause everything. Is Nanami the catalyst? I thought Toga was going to be the catalyst in all this, but is Nanami the one that's going to change this whole thing? I don't know. But yeah, where's the monkey? And so, having watched March Comes In Like a Lion, the cuckoo in the nest is a metaphor in that series. You should seriously go watch March Comes In Like a Lion. It's amazing. But in that, the idea is that the cuckoo will lay its egg in the nest, and then it will hatch, and then it will force out the other birds and become part of the family and take over the nest, which is essentially what Toga has done. He's taken over the nest and the family. Mm-hmm. I also think it's very important that we tie in the cuckoo bird and the egg metaphor, because we just had an episode like 3 weeks ago called Nanami's Egg that was tying to eggs as well. So, and of course, that would mean like why would Toga not want Nanami to be into women? Well, because then he can't be with her. So then he's in Ruka's situation. So of course, that's why he's like, no, you can't be into ladies. I need you to not be like what's happened with Ruka. Oh my God. Yeah, so we get the cuckoo thing. And they call it parasitism. Yep. My true identity is never revealed. You ugly duckling. So, yeah. The parasitism. So, I want to see where the parasite metaphor goes with Toga, but we're not there yet. Do we think that Anthy lost the rock, paper, scissors intentionally? I think she did. I think Anthy's fair game at rock, paper, scissors. I think that or maybe she didn't want to lose to Utena and Anthy just happened to be there. If Anthy had chose scissors, then it would have been a draw. So, Or if one of them had chose scissors, it would have been a draw. And so then Nanami stays in the bed, but... So then Toga shows up and wants her to come back. And he's like, there's no reason for you to start living in a dorm. I thought this part was interesting because supposedly Toga and Akio are working together. So for Toga to come to there and suddenly want to get Nanami to leave is very interesting to me because it seems to be in contrast to what Akio would want. Unless Akio wanted to just get it all out in the open. Also, I like the clear separation of the 3 women and the 2 male characters in the room. Like, it's clearly, like, divided one side into the other. But I'm surprised because, I mean, Akio invited her to come to his place. So you would think he would have told Toga that she was there. And maybe he did, but explained it was okay. But maybe Akio is afraid that Nanami is going to snoop where she shouldn't snoop and find out what she shouldn't find out, which is what ends up happening. But then why not use your influence, Akio, to convince her to go back to Toga? Why not do that? Why not? But that's not what he does. He doesn't say anything. Instead, he lets it play out. And she's like, I don't. And he's like, you're the only sister I've got. We should help each other. And then she says, we're not really brother and sister. And at that point, that's when Utena is surprised. Toga is surprised. Anthy and Akio are not surprised. And he's like, how'd you find out? And she's like, I kept hoping it was a lie and that it was a joke. And now that I don't have a brother, what am I supposed to do? And I feel it for me. She's like, I still consider you my brother, though. And I thought that was really sweet. She's like, even though you're not, I still consider you my brother. And I can't just ignore everything that I've felt until now. But him doing the same kiss as the prince did to her. And she's like, because I love you. And that's kind of in this moment where she realizes that you're not actually my brother. It's sort of mirroring Utena's whole thing of Akio being like, you're not actually my prince. Now, when she's like, I kept hoping that it was a lie, I wonder, and that it was all a joke. But it's not fair. I kind of wondered if that was sort of like her realizing that he's not actually her brother is similar to Akio. Like, does Utena love him or is she confused? I feel like you can kind of transpire what Nanami is saying. She's like, I hoped it was a joke and that you weren't actually, that you were my brother. But is Utena kind of feeling the same way? Like, even if Akio is not my prince, I still kind of have a crush on him and like him. And she's like, what am I supposed to do? And she's like, I still consider you my brother and everything we've been through. I can't ignore everything that I felt up until now. I feel like Utena's going through the same thing. And she says, it's because I love you. And she's like, I love you, big brother. And of course, Utena is like, my thing is, I want Utena to realize that she feels that way for Anthy and not Akio. But I feel like Utena's going to translate it as to Akio. And then she tells Toga to leave. Because she loves him. And of course, Utena's like, do I feel this way about Akio? Do I feel this way about Anthy? Now, I want to see what is the constellation that is the other thing was, what is the constellation that is in there? I'm just going to look up constellations, like common ones, and see what we've got here. And to know what exactly they look like, I want to see the ones that we have that we can look at. There's a lot of recognized constellations. So I kind of wanted to see if there is one that's really common, like common constellations. I want to see some pictures. But yeah, the one that appears in the night sky, I want to get exactly what it is, because it seems like this one seems pretty commonplace, right? Where it's just two of them. I'm like, show me your magic. Show me what you got. What constellations do we have that it could be? It's not Taurus. That's not it. It's not. Like, give me some good ones. Give me some good ones that it can be. It's got 4 legs coming across it. Okay. Help me out here. What is this? What is this constellation? Tell me about it. Tell me what it is. Oh, it's Gemini. It is Gemini. Okay, well, go figure. Yep. The constellation Gemini. Okay. Which, again, 2 sides of the coin, Akio and Anthy. And now we have the brothers, Toga and Nanami, and all that. And I like that Utena tries to say, you know, even though you found out he's not really your brother, you guys can still be siblings. It's not like things have to change. But again, as Akio has noted, sometimes Utena saying that is not the most helpful in this situation, and Anthy just wants to be left alone. So she ends up leaving, which that shot of Utena is really cute with the look on her face. And then that's when she goes up to the Star Lab. Now, on the one hand, I really thought Akio was going to do something to her. And I was going to be really, really nervous. But that didn't happen. But then the worst part is that we see that he's been messing around with Anthy. And our poor innocent Nanami has the dress fall down. And then we cut to her in the elevator. That elevator scene is wild. And there's like a full-on nude shot of Anthy on that couch. I did the screenshots for the Discord, but it's some of the best art. The illustrations of Anthy in this last part of the episode are some of... They remind me a lot of episode 29 with Juri and Ruka. They are some of the most beautifully drawn images of her in the most disturbing context possible. And Anthy and Nanami in the elevator and the walls of the elevator being red with the blue light on the top kind of remind me of the slushy, but also of blood. Not enough booze in this coffee. And when she slowly turns her head to look up, it's like a damn ghost. Yep. My thing is, as we pan out from the dig tower, we see her, and as we pan up, we see her lift herself up, and her hair, like, flies out like the Prince and Akio's. What is that? What is that with the hair? Why are we doing that? What is going on? Ah! What I don't want to happen is I don't want Nanami to forget about what she saw. As painful as it is, I want Nanami to talk to Utena and be like, this is not what you think it is. These are not good things happening. This is not good vibes. I want her to talk to Utena. I want Nanami and Utena to team up. I never thought I would say this in a million years, but I want Nanami and Utena to team up and take down Akio and Toga. I feel like in this episode, though, for the very first time, Toga had a bit of vulnerability to him. When he came to take Nanami back and she revealed that she knew they weren't siblings, there was a little bit of like, there was a layer peeled back where Toga was like, and he seemed kind of like he wanted to do something but couldn't. And so I want more of that. I want that peeled back, please. But I want Nanami and Utena. If Anthy ain't going to do anything, and if Anthy doesn't feel like she is able to do things, then I want Nanami and Anthy, I want Nanami and Utena to team up to take down Akio. But I don't think that's going to happen. And we have 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, we have 7 episodes left. And a movie, but we're not going to worry about the movie. We just got to get through the series first. Oh my God, y'all. I'm sure you all have some crazy comments down below, but I don't think I'm going to be able to wait very long for episode 32. Sorry. I don't think I'm going to be able to wait that long, but there was no duel this episode either. There were no duels. Not a duel, not a single duel. There was some shadow girls that were appearing, but there were some shadow girls, but there was definitely not any dueling happening. So what do we do with that? Are we done with duels? Are duels not a thing anymore? Was the duel with Ruka and Juri the end where it was like, you know what? We're done with that now? If it is, I'm not opposed. I mean, I'm sad we won't have the song anymore, but unless Akio versus Anthy, unless Akio versus Utena, and that's terrifying to think about. I don't want to think about that, actually. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this reaction and discussion. This episode was powerful, and I don't know what else to do with it. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. I'm going to take a little breather, gather my wits about me. And yeah, I'll be back to see you all very soon in episode 32 of Revolutionary Girl Utena. Bye.